everyone at Toorak Primary School. My name's Adam Voigt. I'm the founder and the CEO of Real Schools. And I'm absolutely delighted to be working with Toorak Primary School. I've been working with them for almost a year now, and we'll be working together for the next couple of years. And our work is all around how we can build a really strong, a really safe, a really relational school culture for parents, such as prospective prep parents like you, to send their kids into, knowing that the two big things that parents are looking for around how we can turn your kids into great learners, and also how we can help work together to establish them as really functional and contributing citizens, is being achieved. I think that there's a lot of compulsion in the media these days for you to be in conflict with the school about why do things cost a certain amount at the canteen, why does the uniform look like this, and it doesn't matter. What parents really want from a school, and what they tell me in the dozens of schools that we work with all around Australia, is that they want their kids to be great learners, and they want the school to help them to be able to socialise and to be able to cooperate with other people. And we want to bring that back into sharp focus. Now, our work has said, why don't we have a special way of doing that? Why don't we have a really good plan for how we're going to make that come to life? And your school has chosen an approach called Restorative Practices, and it's awesome. You should be really excited. You should be really positive about dropping your kid in a culture that calls itself a restorative school. And I guess what I want you to know about restorative school is that your child will come home and will say some things that are a little different to what yours and what my experience was of being at school. The first thing they might tell you is a bit different is that they sat in a circle, or they stood in a circle a lot. Circles are really important within a restorative framework. What a circle does is positions us differently than if we might be sat in the old days, like when we were at school, in a clump. When you bring the students together in a clump on the floor and you put a teacher up on a chair in front of them in a powerful position, wonder if you can just contemplate this for me for a minute. Where do the kids sit who most want to answer a question? And I bet you can agree they're probably down the front and centre, because they want to make sure that the teacher can see their hand go up. Where do the kids sit who most need to answer a question though? And most of us would agree that they tend to position themselves at the back and at the edges of the clump, because there are special positions in the clump. And if I can get into the special position at the edge or the back, I will be able to reduce the likelihood that I have to answer a question, and therefore I don't have to listen as much. When we get together in a circle, there's just no special positions. There's no powerful spot. And what happens is the students feel that increased expectation, and therefore they're more likely to engage. It also reduces behaviour problems in the class, which is really fantastic. So that's one thing that you'll notice is different about sending your kids to school, is they'll say that they were in circles a lot while they talked about various things that they needed to learn about. Another thing that you'll notice that's really different about the restorative approach is the way we speak. It's our language. And we use what we call affective, not effective, affective language to deal with all the really low level stuff that schools have happen all the time. We know it's going to happen. We know that occasionally kids are going to do the wrong thing, that there's going to be a little bit of conflict or tension around the school, and we think that because that's predictable, we should be ready for it. And for all the really low level stuff, this is something that you might even like to try at home. Instead of using the old well-worn defaults, for instance, if I was to see a kid in your school drop a piece of rubbish on the ground, my old default would be to say, hey, pick that up. But I've been able to change it. And what I say to that student now is, disappoints me to see you do that, put it in the bin. And you'll see the expectation's still the same. But if you are like 99.9% of the population who's not a sociopath, you will have heard me say the word loudest, the word disappointed. And what that is the feelings and the thinking part of your brain working in tandem together. And that's when the most powerful learning happens. And what you learn is a really clear understanding that your behaviour affects other people. And what that builds for you is a strong case of empathy. That's incredibly exciting for us. Not only because parents want their kids to be empathic, but because it rejects the notion that you can do it formally, that you can get the kids together on a Wednesday afternoon, teach them about empathy, make a poster about it, and then you've been empathised and now you'll be empathic. It doesn't work like that. And it's the mistake that we've made when we've tried to do things like counter-bullying. There have been about 9,000 anti-bullying programs invented around the world. And I think that that's a signal that it's not time to invent 9,001. It's time to tackle it differently. And what we know about bullying is that the greatest preventative factor that you can have in place around a culture like a school to prevent bullying is empathy. And the way you learn it is when the people around it speak to it all the time. all those low level things. You think about how many times in a day a teacher would have the opportunity to say what they were already going to say, but just chuck in a feelings where it doesn't cost any time. But if we do that, what happens is our young people are constantly connecting dots between my behaviour and the impact on other people, and that is how you build empathic people. Try it at home. If you've got teenagers, I've got a couple of those in the house, or even some older kids who might have messy bedrooms. Instead of nagging, instead of saying, clean your room, clean your room, clean your room, how many times have I told you you need to clean your room? Just walk in, look at the mess, and say, this is so disappointing, and walk out. And I bet that behind you won't know, but I bet that behind you there'll be a face that sort of screams, oh, what was that all about? And the great part is they're now starting to think about their behaviour and the way that it's impacting you as well. One final thing that you'll notice about this whole restorative framework, how it drops out into the way we practice as teachers, how we connect with parents to try and build young people who are empathic, is that what happens right at the bottom of it is that kids become responsible. Now, in the old days, in the old system, we learnt responsibility from our families, but there was a system going on at school that sort of tried to fight that. When you have a system that says that when something goes wrong, we try to work out who's to blame and we hand out a punishment, what happens is you avoid responsibility. You lie, you exaggerate, you omit, you do whatever you possibly can to avoid the risk of a negative outcome upon yourself. You run away from responsibility, you shirk it. What we're saying is we're going to ask your kids when things go wrong some slightly different questions, which is going to be what happened, sure, but we're just not going to launch big investigations. We're just going to get to the gist. We're going to ask, what's the impact of that? What's the harm? Who's upset? And what are you going to do about it? And how can we help? When I was a school principal, and the immense power of restorative practices really was hammered home to me when I was a principal, I spoke to my year one students one day and I made an awful mistake. I asked them what sort of a principal they wanted and I got answers about water slides. So I quickly moved the conversation on and I said to them, what I will be is the sort of principal that if you ever spill a drink on our fabulous, beautiful new floors in our classrooms, I will never, ever, ever clean it up for you. But I will show you where the mops are. And I asked the students to just chat with amongst themselves about what they thought that meant. And one little girl put her hand up, actually a lot of hands went up. The girl that I spoke to who put her hand up, she said, it means that if we make a mistake, we have to fix it, but you'll help. I said, yep, spot on. And that's how you learn responsibility. So we want to get really clear about how we can learn responsibility, learn empathy, and contribute to those big things that I mentioned right at the start. How we turn your kids into strong, capable, resilient learners, and how we work together with you to build them into fantastic citizens. I commend you again on sending your kids to Toorak Primary School. I think you're in for a wonderful educative experience across the next few years, and I know that that's going to start with the work that they're going to do with their fabulous early childhood teachers. Have a great night, everyone, and all the best for that nerve-wracking start to the prep year.